Hello student, today we will discuss about the Mauryan administration as given in your chapter. Last we have discussed about the Chandragupta, the political background, the historical background, but in this module, in this video we will discuss basically about the administration, how it was there. So when you will go to the Mauryan administration, Mauryan Empire had efficient administration that show that they were very systematic manner the king used to handle the such a big and a vast empire. And for the first time there was a political unity, I mean to say from the political unity that all the small kingdom got merged under the Mauryan Empire. Such control was at the victory in such a manner it was made that all the small kingdom came under the clutch of one Mauryan Empire. So we also come to know about the Mauryan administration from the various sources. So all the information regarding the Mauryan administration, how it was handled, what were the officers, and how it was managed, so that we get the information through the sources such as rock edict of Ashoka that we have discussed in the last video, that it was a rock cut from the mountain or the rock in which it was engraved regarding the official decree, the issue, the notification, whatever the official orders were there, that was engraved on the rock edict made by the Ashoka. Under the guidance of Ashoka, there were so many rock edict made in the Mauryan time. Second is also your Indica of Megasthene. He was a Greek ambassador sent by Seleucus to the Chandragupta Maurya court. So his book is also very much important because he has written down the account whatever he has seen during the Mauryan Empire when he was in the court of Chandragupta. Third is your Arthashastra of Chanakya. This is also a very important book which is a source of information because it contains a documentary regarding the political administration, everything related to the king and his administration. So all this information we get from the sources, various sources which I have mentioned here. Now, coming to the administration, the king was the supreme source of all power and authorities with judicial and administrative power. Here, I mean to say the power rests in all in the hand of the king. He was the head. He handled all judicial and the administrative power. So, under his guidance, again, it was made the systematic, the bureaucracy was under the king, all guidance. Then Mauryan administration was very centralized form of system. Again, centralized, I mean to say everything was controlled centrally under one hand. Under the king's guidance, everything was controlled. And one thing also I want to mention, during the Ashoka period, one province was added. Earlier there were 4 provinces in the Mauryan Empire. Later on, one more province was added when Ashoka got victory over Kaling. So this is what here, for the better administration, the kingdom was divided into small provinces, as now India is divided into different states to handle such a big country India. So in the same manner, that time Mauryan Empire was divided into different provinces. So basically there were 4 provinces, but Toshali was added later in the Ashokan period. So these are the important provinces under the Mauryan. Basically 5: Takshila, Ujjain, Swarnagiri, Tosali and Patliputra. All these 5 provinces in a different part of the India. When you will go to the map of the on the map page number 46, it is given in your book. When you will see these provinces, you will get to know. So you need to remember Toshali was added when Ashoka came to the power, and these provinces were headed by the governor or called the Kumar, who were generally the princes. Now let's start from your book what it is given under the administration. You can see this is what the Arthashastra, the source of information. The basic thing you need to know about here, that what made it very much important after the Kaling war. Ashoka added a new 5th province, Kalinga, in the existing 4 provinces with Tosali, as I told you earlier. Then the Mauryan centralized monarchy became a paternal despotism under Ashoka. So what happened? This centralized monarchy or the dictatorship, it was a father. The king were taken as a role model of a father, and the people were taken as a children. So all the subject, it was the duty of the king to take care of his subject or his people. So all men are my children. It was in a rock edict. In one of the edict, it is given such information. Number 3, you can see Ashoka simplified many rigorous practices related to administration regarding taxation and crop collection. So Ashoka made many amendments. So here I mean to say this simplification here means that whatever the problem were related to the taxation behind the agriculture and other sector, so he made a simple one, he made a changes, he made a amendment in that. This helped to increase the productivity and economic activity across the empire. So this is how the systematic manner the empire was handled. This is called administration. Now number 4, Ashoka appointed Mahamata. These were the special officers appointed under the Ashoka. They were the governor. So they their main duty was to take care of the people, welfare of the people. So they were the important officials appointed during the time of Ashoka. Mauryan administration has two mainly division, that is your central civil administration and the military administration. We will study the central administration in a very short form in the form of notes. You need to know the basically that paragraph, and you will read, you will get to know about all this only. The king is at the top position. He is the supreme head of administration and judicial, so the power rests in his hand. All the power here regarding administration and judiciary is taken by the king. Now Ashoka in his time appointed, this we have done just now. I told you one special officers in order to help the king in his work was Mahamatra, and he was a governor. Okay, he used to take care of the people, he used to inform regarding that. Now king was assisted by council of minister. There was Mantri Parishad. So group of minister had a kind of a help they used to provide to king in advising and giving help in assisting. And the foremost was the prime minister. The head under the council of minister was prime minister in the foremost power. Then second was a pujari, or the state called purohit. He used to advise. He was a second officer after the prime minister. He had also a very big role in giving all the advisories, like Chanakya play a very important role. Number 3 is the Senapati, and this is what advised the king on the matter related to war and peace. So regarding the fight, battles, and whatever the foreign relations are there with other kingdoms, so what decision has to be taken regarding the fight, that was advised by the Senapati. Then Sanidhatta, he was the head treasurer finance. He used to take about the treasury of the kingdom empire. What are the plus and minus, you mean to say what were the deficit and income, all those things he has to keep in mind and touch with the king. Then there was a Samahartha taxation expert, which area this person has to give the advice regarding in what taxation, what should be the tax for particular production or any area, so where they should get a money from which area. So that is the taxation expert who used to advise king. Beside these, there were other officers who used to advise as an officer. The important one is the accountant general, who used to take about the agriculture sector, superintendent of mines, superintendent of port, controller of commerce, superintendent of weight and measure. These are the different department where these peoples were given the post to take care of. This is what your civil administration, this is a centralized administration which is given in this paragraph on page number 47. When you will read this thing, you will get the same thing what I said in just now. Now coming to your provincial administration, the centralized administration is divided into the small provinces. Okay, just that is what here given. You just see provincial administration. There were 5 provinces during Ashoka's time. Tushali was added, and the head of the provinces were known as Kumar or Aryaputra. Generally, they were the princes. These princes were given the charge to take care of the provinces, and they were assisted by Governor Mahamatra, as I said, the important officer. Now then there was a Pradeshika who collected the taxes in the provinces in the same manner as it was handled in the central manner. In the governor, in the provinces also, small areas also, there were governors, and a Pradeshika who used to collect the tax and hand over to the Aryaputra or the Kumar. Rajuka performed the functions of Tehsildar or revenue officer. Yukta was the treasurer. So as in the earlier cases we have seen, there were the treasurer to take care of the finance. Here there were also the officers to guide the governor of the province. The head of the province is who? Kumar or Aryaputra, and it was given, the charge was given to whom? To the generally the princes. The provinces were again divided into district called Janpadas, and it was taken care by the Pradeshika, Rajukas and Yukta. All these officers, you got to know what are the functions, you can understand with this. So in the district level also there were the people there, the positions were Pradeshika, they were known as Pradeshika, Rajuka and Yukta, and the different functions has been given, you need to just remember. Similarly, important cities has its own administration, like Patliputra. It has 30 members committee, care by the committee of 30 members. Patliputra was a big city, so capital city, and that was to be managed in a very good manner. So this is what here the head was called Nagar Adhyaksha. The Patliputra was a big city, and earlier it was known as Nagar. So the head of the Patliputra was known as Nagar Adhyaksha, and it was chaired by the committee of 30 members. So it was divided into 6 committees. Now regarding the revenue system, when you will go through, basically there were two form of taxes. One was Bali and the other was Bhaga. Bali was the religious tribute or donation given. Okay, in that form the tax was given, and the Bhaga was the agriculture produce. Whatever the produce was there, agriculture produce and the cattle. So the taxation was from those area. It was generally 1/4 to 1/6. That now you will go to the paragraph and get to know what maximum thing is given there. Spy system, when you will read, the Chandragupta Maurya had a good spy network, spies in his empire. There were spies against regarding the kingdom, what is going in his kingdom. So everything was keep in touch, and it was done by the secret members, and they were known as the spies. So this is what called the spy system. The king was always kept informed in what is the working of the bureaucracy, whether his officers are working or not. So that is what here the spy system worked. Now regarding the military administration, when you will go to the chapter, you will find that Chandragupta had a big empire and everything was very much well maintained. You can see infantry, cavalry, elephants and chariot. So such a large amount of things he had, not only the people, the on foot soldiers, but the horses with the soldiers. So this is what the 30,000 cavalry, 6 lakh infantry, 9,000 war elephants. So these are what the weaponry condition, that is how well maintained they were, how good position they had to fight with any kingdom. So according to another source, the Mauryas maintained about 8,000 chariots. The chief weapons, what were that? Bows, arrows, shields, swords, etc. So these weapons were used for fighting. The king was in the commander in chief, and he was the head. He used to guide what and where it has. Every actions regarding the battle was taken by the king because he was the commander in chief. So under the whole army was under the military commission of 30 members. The Mauryas also had a well-led recruitment policy. So that means not a in no such kind recruitment policy means here the king, under the king vision only, the talented people, the one who had the skill for fight, will only get that position. So this is what the recruitment policy. The soldiers were paid in cash. The Maurya had built fort and strategic places for safety security of the empire. So they had also a good protective system in which they used to make the fort to take a security vision whether there is an attack or not. Warfare items were kept where the soldiers were appointed there. So this is what the method they have applied, making the forts and security. That was a tough security. Now regarding the Ashoka's Dham, which is given in the last portion of your chapter, after the Kaling War, Ashoka became the people's king. That means he loved that. He shows earlier he was very much aggressive, but after the Kaling he got little change over in his ethos and ideologies. Now he always thought for the people, the welfare of the people. He embraced Buddhism but did not impose it on his subject. He liked Buddhism, he patronized, but he never forced any people to follow it. It was he left it on the people what they wanted. That means there was nothing very much rigid that the people should follow the Buddhism because the king is following. It was not like that. He wanted his subject to follow such as Dham that may be based on the unifying principle of all major religions of the world. But he always focused on the Dham, the right vision of living. This is what he said, that Dham is what the common thing, that in all the religion this is there. So this is what the Ashoka wanted his people to follow. The Dham as described in Ashoka's edict is not a religion or a religious system. It's a moral law or a common code of conduct or an ethical order. So this is what Ashoka mean to say, that it's not a religion, it's a moral law which every people should follow in their life. Now what are the principles of Dham? You need to understand this. Ashoka Dham has the following silent point: respect for elders and love for children. This is all the basic thing that we are given in our family. Also the parents teach us, and we give all those kind of moral ethics to our generation children. So now the second point is ahimsa or non-violence. We should not apply any kind of killing and violence on any people or in any animal. This is what Ashoka is embracing. Third is good deeds or good karma would get happiness to man in the next birth. So whatever you are studying, we have studied in the Jainism and Buddhism chapter also. Buddha and Jainism, they always said that what we do, that also give us a good result. So now it depends on how the work is there, good action, bad action. In the same manner, it gives the result. He taught people to respect all the religions. So not only focus their own Buddhism, but to respect other teachers also. And he disapproved the empty rituals. So empty rituals means all those religions or the all those kind of practices which does not give any kind of a satisfaction, it's a blind faith that was not to be followed. This is what here disapproved empty rituals. So this is what here you will see. And in the impact of Dham, you will see how there was a religious unity, moral values got up, religious unity, all the people got under the one religion, followed their empire policy of religious tolerance, so all became very much effective to each other. Moral value, they had a good moral values regarding everything. Then the end of a crime. So since the policy of ahimsa, they said that we should practice a non-violence, so there was a moral impact on the people. The theft, crime and others activities was decline. Public welfare, when you will see, with the policy of conquest and war having come to an end, Ashoka Dham helped officials to undertake public welfare and public scheme. This resulted in a prosperity. So overall, when you will see, the with the end of the Kaling war, there was a change in the systematic manner, the policies and the things, and so this was the end of the war crimes. So this is how the chapter comes to end, and we see that how Ashoka managed it. So please read the chapter, and thank you.